Trevor, AJ, Noah, and Cade present World War I and everything you need to know. Lead up to the war. Due to the age of imperialism, many European nations developed alliances in order to become safer and ease the tension that had risen between the world's current powers. These alliances led to the formation of the Triple Alliance, or the Central Powers, featuring Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. The agreement between these three was to defend each other or at least remain neutral if another country in the alliance was attacked. After this, out of fear of the large power of the Triple Alliance, France, Russia, and the UK established the Triple Entente, also known as the Allied Powers. None of the nations in the Triple Entente had a strong bond. Neither side planned or conducted any attacks, which led to a stalemate between the major alliances. An increase in nationalism, the extreme zealotism for a country, and militarism, the building up of militaries, led to increasing tensions between the alliances. Many smaller nations developed treaties with the alliances in order to guarantee safety and stability. One of these treaties was between Russia and Serbia, which caused an uproar for Austria-Hungary due to the threat Serbia posed. Up until recently, Serbia had been under control of Austria-Hungary, but that had changed during a recent uprising. The war begins! The war really began when a Serbian nationalist assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria during a motorcade in Serbia. Austria decided that their only choice was to destroy the threat that was Serbia. After this, to maintain its alliance with Serbia, and in fear of losing their border, Russia mobilized their army and declared war on Germany. By August of 1914, all of the countries in each alliance, except Italy, were at war. Each alliance began to pull in smaller nations to help in the war effort. Eventually, Italy joined the Allied Powers, formerly the Triple Entente, and declared war on Austria-Hungary. The war.
The UK and France used their large empires to recruit troops, amassing hundreds of thousands on the French side and millions on the English side, due to each nation's large number of colonies. This became the most diverse war in history at the time. The first major offensive was at the Eastern Front, where Russian troops attempted to take Germany, but ultimately failed. Where the Allies fought the Germans was known as the Western Front. The Western Front was not good for either side, with neither making progress toward winning the war.
Trench warfare.
Sides dug trenches tall enough for a man to stand straight up in and not see ground level. They were surrounded by sandbags, barbed wire, and machine guns covered in barbed wire. Trenches began when guns began to fire faster, so the soldiers built trenches so they didn't get gunned down. The trenches included kitchens, bathrooms, first aid supplies, and places for supply drop-offs. The trenches also led to advancements in aircrafts and tanks. Trenches were separated by a no-man's land in which any soldier who attempted to cross was often gunned down. Many offensives from the trenches involved a large amount of soldiers charging across no man's land in a straight line toward the enemy. This often led to large numbers of casualties and failure. Disease and shell shock were a big problem in the trenches. Diseases spread rapidly due to the compact and dirty living conditions. Trench foot was a common disease caused by standing in mud for a long time, and often led to amputation. Many soldiers got PTSD from being constantly bombarded from outside forces.
Technological advancements
were mainly used to destroy enemy defenses so their side could push forward. They had treads to travel over multiple terrains and armored to resist artillery. Planes were mainly used for reconnaissance. There were one-man and two-man planes. Planes sometimes had machine guns attached.
Das ist gut.
Chemical weapons were introduced in 1915 and they were perfect for attacking trenches. They were first released into the air by German forces and spread across the French line. This forced Allied fighters to wear gas masks, Commonly used chemical weapons were chlorine, phosgene, and mustard gas. By the end of the war, over 1 million people were killed or injured by chemical weapons. The Germans invented U-boats, which allowed them to destroy 10 million tons of Allied cargo. This made the Allies protect their cargo and led to the U.S. joining the war. The Allies then blocked German ports, which led to their defeat.
The United States joins the war.
Originally, the U.S. had wanted to stay out of the European conflict, but that all changed when Germany brought submarines near the U.S. coast and tried to negotiate an alliance with Mexico. On April 6, 1917, under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, the United States declared war on Germany. Germany tried to split the French army, but lost many troops doing so. After this, American, Italian, and British forces pushed forward and liberated Belgium and France, and were ready to attack Germany. They didn't get the chance, however, as the people of Germany rose up and established a new government.
The beginning of the end.
The reward to the colonies for assisting in the war effort, England and France allowed their colonies to become independent nations. The colonists' view on the war allowed them to gain a better understanding of how to govern, state, and felt prepared to become independent. In the end, Germany lost when both Great Britain and France counterattacked during the German Michael offensive, while most of their navy was on strike. Once the U.S. joined the war, Germany realized they couldn't win. Germany was forced to pay 132 billion gold marks for war reparations, leaving Germany very poor and desperate for change.
The end of the war.
The war ended on November 9, 1918. Germany signed an armistice on November 11th, and in June the Allies signed the Treaty of Versailles. The League of Nations was established at the Paris Peace Conference. With that, the conflict finally over, Palestine began. The mandate system of allied nations supporting colonies until they could sustain themselves was created. Germany was left in desperate need of money. Their economy had already crashed, though the U.S. remained a major power. After that, war changed forever. The war destroyed economies, and approximately 40 million people died. After effects still whispered throughout the world. The war was over, those wounds healed into scars, imprinting permanent reminders of the horror and trauma of war.
Insights and questions. If World War I had happened before or after the age of imperialism, how would it have been different?
The tide of war had been changed had the United States not gotten involved.
Would the war have been prevented if the uprising in Germany had happened earlier?
Did the new technology usher in a new era, or was it always inevitable?
How would the war have been changed if Archduke Franz Ferdinand had not been assassinated? Would it have happened at all? Would the Allies have lost?
How would the war have gone if the Russian Revolution failed or succeeded on the new government joined the Central Powers?
Even though the war is over, the suffering the war caused still remains today.
How did the ideas of trench warfare lead to the technological advancements in warfare?